Once upon a time, there was a hospital located in a small town in the middle of nowhere. The hospital had been abandoned for years due to some mysterious and tragic events that had taken place there. One day, a group of friends decided to explore the abandoned hospital. They had heard rumors of strange occurrences and unexplained sightings inside the hospital, but they brushed it off as just another urban legend. As they made their way through the dark and eerie hallways, they began to feel a sense of unease. The hospital seemed to be alive with a strange energy that made their skin crawl. Suddenly, they heard a blood-curdling scream coming from one of the rooms. They rushed towards the sound, only to find a horrifying scene. There was a patient lying on the bed, covered in blood, with a doctor standing over them with a twisted smile on their face. The friends were terrified and tried to run out of the hospital, but the doors were all locked from the outside. They were trapped in the hospital with no way out. As they continued to explore, they discovered more and more disturbing things. They found rooms filled with medical equipment covered in rust and cobwebs, surgical tools scattered across the floor, and even a morgue filled with corpses. As the night wore on, the friends realized that they were not alone in the hospital. There was someone, or something, stalking them in the shadows, and they didn't know how to escape. Eventually, they stumbled upon a room filled with old medical records. They discovered that the hospital had been conducting illegal experiments on patients, and that many had died as a result. The doctors had covered up the deaths and continued to conduct the experiments in secret. As they read through the records, they realized that the doctors who had worked at the hospital were still alive and still conducting their twisted experiments. They knew they had to get out of the hospital and expose the truth before it was too late. They managed to find a way out of the hospital, but not before coming face to face with the doctors responsible for the horrors that had taken place there. They managed to escape, but the memory of what they had witnessed would haunt them forever. From that day on, the abandoned hospital became known as a place of unspeakable terror, and no one ever dared to venture inside again. Once upon a time, there was a hospital located in a remote area of the forest, where a young nurse named Sarah had just started working. The hospital was old and eerie, with dimly lit hallways that creaked and groaned with each step. The other nurses warned Sarah about strange occurrences that happened at the hospital, but she didn't pay much attention to their warnings. One night, Sarah was working the night shift when she heard a strange noise coming from one of the empty rooms. She cautiously approached the room, but when she opened the door, she found nothing out of the ordinary. Thinking it was just her imagination, Sarah continued with her duties. As the night progressed, Sarah noticed that the patients in the hospital were acting strangely. They would stare blankly at the walls and mutter to themselves incoherently. Sarah began to feel uneasy, but she tried to brush it off. Then, in the early hours of the morning, Sarah heard a blood-curdling scream coming from one of the patients' rooms. She rushed to the room to investigate, but when she opened the door, she found the patient lying on the floor, with strange markings carved into their flesh. Suddenly, Sarah realized that something was terribly wrong in the hospital. She tried to call for help, but the phone lines were dead, and the hospital's only exit was locked from the outside. Sarah was trapped in the hospital with no way out. As Sarah continued to search for a way to escape, she discovered a hidden room in the hospital. In the room, she found a book of spells and potions, which she realized were being used to control the patients and inflict harm upon them. The book belonged to a witch nurse who had been practicing dark magic on the patients for years. Suddenly, the witch nurse appeared, and Sarah realized that she was the one behind all the strange occurrences in the hospital. The witch nurse attacked Sarah, but she managed to fight back with the help of the book of spells. In the end, Sarah was able to defeat the witch nurse and escape from the hospital. But the horrors she had experienced stayed with her forever, and she never forgot the terrible things that had happened in that remote hospital in the woods.